Hello and welcome back to Bookish Today. I'm here to do my June wrap-up, my July TBR, and something I don't think I've ever done on my channel. Maybe I have. A really tiny haul for a really specific reason. So I wasn't going to do a TBR this month, but I'm involved in, for the first time in my booktube career, I'm involved in several read-alongs, some buddy reads, hosting a readathon of a series of books, and so I thought I would do that as a way of promoting the read-alongs that I'm a part of, and the readathon. Is it a readathon or a read-along that I'm a part of? By the way, I'm wearing my official now meh shirt. Some of you may know that I invented the word meh sometime in the late 80s or the very early 90s, so all of you who are using meh in your videos, I do expect a 7 to 10% royalty, depending on the country of your origin, be sent to me for using my copyrighted term. And so I'm wearing my meh shirt today to indicate that, you know, this is in fact a word of my creation, and that you all then owe me. It's not a reflection on the books that I'm about to talk about. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is to do the wrap-up for June. I participated in the Reading Women Month kind of event for June. This was a celebration, I think, of the 3rd anniversary of Kendra Winchester and her business partners' reading blog called Reading Women. They had a bingo card where you were supposed to try to read books to make bingo, and I'm really bad at bingo. So while I read enough books during Reading Women's Month to get a bingo, I didn't bingo because I didn't read the right ones in the right order. But the first book I read was The Decision by our BookTube's own Britta Bowler. This is a book about Thomas Mann's decision about whether or not to return to Germany, whether or not to openly come out and reject Hitler's Nazi government in Germany. There's a review of this on my channel. I really enjoyed it. It was a book that really just kind of hit a lot of the areas of my interest, and I thought it was really well done. I also read Ian Lee's Dear Friend, From My Life I Write to You in Your Life. This is a kind of a memoir of the author's struggle with depression, what she read during those periods of depression, and how her reading kind of helped her perhaps focus her thinking and maybe think her way through that period of depression. I really found the book to be really powerful, if somewhat confusing. This is one of those books I think that I will need to definitely reread. Also for Reading Women's Month, I read Love Medicine by Louise Erdrich. I am quickly becoming Louise Erdrich's biggest fanboy probably on BookTube. This is her first novel, and I was just blown away by how assured and confident it was for her first novel. And so, you know, I'm a Louise Erdrich fan. No surprise I really like this. I also read Lori Moore's collection of short stories, Birds of America. And of all the books I read, this is the most meh collection. While I thought the stories were well written, and I thought there were some quality stories in here, for the most part the stories felt a little bit dated, a little bit too much of the 1990s to really resonate with me today. And maybe this is just a byproduct of the short story writing world, kind of created by the New Yorker and the New Yorker style story. These stories just really didn't resonate very much with me, even though I thought there were some good stories in there. And then finally I read a detective novel, Bluebird by Attica Locke. Attica Locke is the author of, I believe, The Cutting Room is the name of one of her books, and Dark Water Rising. This is the first book in a series she's going to call the Highway 59 series, about an African-American Texas Ranger and his struggles and the cases he solves in East Texas. And this really spoke to me in part because Highway 59 is the highway more or less I grew up along in the town where I was born. I also wanted to participate at least a little bit in Pride Month, so I read Lot, a collection of short stories by Brian Washington. Brian Washington is a Houston-based writer, and Lot is a collection of short stories the titles of which all come from streets or neighborhoods in Houston. And while I thought the stories were somewhat mixed in quality, there was one story in this collection, I believe called A-Leaf, which really just blew me away. Many of the characters in this story are, in fact, gay young men struggling in impoverished conditions in the city of Houston. But one of these stories, at least, I found to be really, really powerful. And then also for the Poetry for Beginners series that I do with Kelly and Lukash, Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading and Lukash from Totally Pretentious, I read the 1855 edition of Leaves of Grass. So June was the first kind of summer month for me of reading. You may know that I'm a teacher, and so during the summer is when I get to read the most. 7 books is kind of a lot for me, to be honest with you. I am a glacially slow reader, which then makes my TBR for this month seem almost undoable. You may know that Steve Donoghue and I, along with Jen from Remembered Reads and Joe from Joseph Francis Burton, are kind of hosting a read-along of the Thomas Covenant Chronicles, beginning with the first series of Chronicles, which starts with this novel, Lord Foulsbane. This is high fantasy. These books were published, I believe, in the 1970s and the 1980s, and these were the kind of fantasy books, or these were some fantasy books that really, to me, as a young reader in the 1980s, were really, really important to me. So it's kind of fun for me to go back and reread these. So I believe we're releasing a video, Jen, Joe, and I are releasing a video about Lord Foulsbane somewhere around the 21st of the month. Steve Donoghue is too, but I understand he's going to do like a weekly read-along, so if you wanted to get involved in the weekly read-along with him, then you can certainly do that. I'm also doing a buddy read with Lukash from Totally Pretentious, and we are going to buddy read the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. This is the first book in a trilogy called The Broken Earth that came out not that long ago. In an attempt to kind of get back into fantasy reading, I was looking for something that seemed like a surefire thing that would interest me and would be well written. So we're going to buddy read the 5th season sometime this month. I'm also buddy reading 2 lives. These are 2 novellas by William Trevor, and I'm buddy reading these with Shawn, the Book Maniac. The first one of these novellas is called Reading Turgenev, which Shawn and I are going to read together sometime near the end of the month, and then both do a video about William Trevor in these novellas. William Trevor is one of my favorite writers ever, and I would argue that he is quite possibly the greatest short story writer in the history of the English language. So these novellas are fairly highly praised. I've actually read Reading Turgenev before, or Turgenev, there we go, before, but I'm going to reread it because my memory of it has somewhat faded, and Shawn wanted to do that because he knew I was a William Trevor fan, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, Mark from Words Everywhere is hosting a read-along of the Wooster and Jeeves series by P.G. Wodehouse, starting with The Inimitable Jeeves, which was this first week of July's book, and I've got to get on this to get caught up. I'm a little bit behind on this one, but I definitely wanted to at least get started on that read-along. I'm not sure I can do all 4 books. He's going to do a Jeeves and Wooster book each week this month, but I did want to get in on this kind of first week and definitely read Wodehouse because I never have. So I'm going to settle down and read some of this today. And then July is also Jane Austen July. And so I'm going to try to read Northanger Abbey. I believe the hostesses of Jane Austen July are going to be doing read-alongs of 2 Jane Austen novels, and I think they're going to get to Northanger Abbey later in the month. The end of my month is pretty busy, so I may get started on this relatively soon, but I definitely want to participate a little bit in Jane Austen July. And then kind of for my 6th book, in the hope I can get to at least 6 books this month, I'm looking at either The Razor's Edge by W. Somerset Maugham. If you follow Alan from Alan Morton, or if you follow Amy from the Dusty Bookshelf, then you know that they've been reading a lot, or one of Alan's favorite authors is Somerset Maugham, and Amy has been reading a lot of Maugham also, and that kind of fired me up to finally get this book. It's been on my shelf for years now and try to read it, so that's one possibility. Also, I've seen several people, and Jason from Old Blues Chapter and Verse has expressed some interest at some point in 2020 getting into the works of John le Carré, and so I wanted to get started on that maybe this summer. And so the first book I want to read in the Smiley series for me would be The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. That might be a possibility this month. And then also, earlier this year, I saw that Marc Nash had read The Immigrants by W.G. Sebald. And Sebald is a writer that I really like. I know that he's not everybody's taste, but I really like his works, and so I kind of wanted to get to this month as well. But maybe one of these three, and I'll kind of decide, probably based on length and mood at the end of the month. So the other thing I want to talk about is to do a really unusual thing on my channel, and that is just to do a haul. I'm already looking forward to Victober and October, and one reason I'm looking forward to is, again, in part inspired by Katie from Books and Things and Alan Morton, and that is to start reading the works of, and Steve Donoghue as well, and that's to start reading the works of Anthony Trollope. So I'm going to start with the Barchester series, I believe, and I think the first book in the Barchester series, if Wikipedia is right, is The Warden. So I want to read that either before Victober or during Victober, and I bought a copy of that, which is not particularly remarkable. It's a used copy of a Penguin classic. But the book I wanted to show you is the book Barchester Towers by Anthony Trollope, which I found at the same used bookstore for only $7. And this is one of those everyman classics, everyman's library kind of classics, and this part itself is pretty impressive. It's got this plastic book cover, but my favorite thing about it, and the reason I want to show it to you, is just the gorgeous kind of maroon or brick red cover, which is really in a remarkable shape, probably owing to the plastic slip cover. And so this is the kind of book I'm really looking forward to being able to get into, and this will take up a good part of my Victober reading, probably, in reading that. But I am really excited to get to that. I'm kind of hoping Trollope becomes my English Balzac, and that I get into his works in the same way as I am into Balzac's works. Anyway, there you go. There's my June wrap-up, my July TBR, and a really tiny haul of Anthony Trollope books. If you've read any of these books or have any advice for me moving forward, I look forward to seeing it in the comment section. And as always, thank you for watching.